Bills go from making the playoffs to not even getting close, actually. And
They're executing the plays, and they are doing what's needed, necessary to win football games.
They just didn't show up again. Another team showed up to play with a game plan, executed the game plan, and then the Bills did not.
Just a couple of guys, a couple microphones, and a heck of a lot of no. It's Football on the No with Jim and Joe.
what is your guys' opinion on the catch?
No, I know
it was a complete catch.
I don't think so.
Absolutely.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the No. I am Jim McPhee. There's Cody Cook over there, and of course, Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Odos? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the No Show. We are locked and loaded, ready to go, and it's just another eventful evening for us. Welcome to the show. If you're new to the show, do us a huge favor. It really does help us out, grow our football community here at Football on the No. Head over to YouTube. Do us a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell to let you guys know when we go live. And you can, of course, also follow us on Facebook as well. And anywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, you name it, we're there. Drop a follow there as well. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the NFL, has been kind of quiet here. There's some little bit of storylines here. And, of course, we don't like to grade every little aspect of the draft like some of these other analysts are doing and a lot of other nonsense in situationals. But it doesn't matter because in the local area, we've had enough local news happen that's kind of made it national now. In the Albany Empire now, we know back, in November, there was an agreement here. Mike Quarta and his group ended up joining forces here with Antonio Brown, his father, Touchdown Eddie Brown, former player of the Albany Firebirds, and their group joined together to buy what it was 47.5% of the team to help grow it together around the area too, to build it up better and even be in tune with the community a little more, bring everybody together. But since the season just about was going to get started, it's been absolute chaos since then.
Definitely has. There's been all kinds of things that have happened to the Albany Empire, whether it be guys leaving, staff-wise, guys are just up and quitting, players are up and quitting, even at the highest level, which a lot of people point fingers at Antonio Brown because he's the owner, or at least he's listed as the owner on the website. A lot of people are pointing fingers at him and saying, maybe it's the Antonio Brown effect once again striking, and the Albany Empire is not as flourishing as it used to be.
Oh, I mean, they're a staple around here. And again, you talk about championships. They were trying to three-peat in the NAL, but remember, even when it was just the Arena League, they have a championship from there, so they've already got three continuous right in a row. Right. As it is. They were looking for an actual fourth. Yep. And but now since they started again, let's look at it as a timeline kind of point of view from April, 2nd around there to where the season's going to get started. 10 days prior to the season starting, he goes and they fire Tom Manas, their head coach, out of nowhere. I didn't hear any reasons.
Championship head coach, mind you.
Like I said, we just named the championships here, and just fired him up. I'm like, okay, so then you're going to move up Damon Ware. That's your game plan, right? So you want to move him up. You think you could do it without Tom Manas. Maybe there was a problem with that. That was the beginning of things. So you get to your home opener, and there's, again, a video that goes viral about him having the argument with the security guard looking to escort him off the field, not knowing who he is. You know what I mean? That's how out of touch with some of these security guards. Like, dude, I don't even know who you are, but right now you're dressed around, a dude dressed around in a funny suit, and you're on the field, and we got to get, things going. You know what I mean? So nobody.
Yeah, game's about to happen, about to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's just doing his job.
He's trying to do his job, so you got to commend him for that. You know what I mean? So it all started even with something like that. So that brought up the narrative, hey, well, I'm the owner. And then
no, you're not.
He goes out and somebody asks him, and then he goes with the whole, I'm 100% owner. Right. And then now that goes back to Mike Quarta. So then people ask him about that. So then it ends up being a thing between them. And there's an argument behind the scenes, that we're not hearing about, but there's a discussion about things and all that. Then we find out like a week or so later that Mike Cuarta and his camp is different things, part ways, i.e. some people have said that they got let go or fired, including the president, Matt Woods, and then the media operations guy, former president Jeff Levac. So they're no longer with this. So that whole team, part of the ownership group, leaves. I did some digging and even found out later that it wasn't even, that he bought out his, the other section of Antonio's Browns, brought out his you know how much he paid to buy him out? $1. So that's how you know how bad that relationship is. If you're looking to get out that badly and you're like, dude, I can't do this anymore. I just want, you know what? He kind of, and I know Mike Cuarta and the way he is, he was probably just like this. He's like, you know what? I don't even want to deal with you right now. Whatever. You want everything? Here you go. For $1. Get out of my face. I don't need this anymore. Yep. You know what I mean? And that's what it went for. By the way, we got Paul Matty's in the house.
What's going on, Paul?
Yeah. He's an OG know-it-all. What's up from Playa Linda Beach? What's up, Paul Matty?
What's going on, buddy?
When I coached arena football for the Saginaw Sting, my paychecks bounced. So an SWB Pro is in the house with us tonight, too.
What's going on, Pro? How you doing, man? Welcome to the show, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the other
real
issues.
quick, let's touch on what Paul just said. His checks bounced. Well, that's what's happening, and that's why you're seeing a lot of these big, not just like small everyday guys on the roster, big names, like probably the biggest names in NAL, the Arena League, is you got guys like Cisse leaving, a juggernaut of linemen. He's out. He dips out. You got Darius Prince, the 2-time MVP of the league, just left. And these guys are leaving, and it's been reported that they're saying, hey, we stopped getting paid. We're not getting paid anymore. So why are we going to stay and keep playing when we're not getting paid? So they have contracts just like everybody else, and it's going to be interesting down the road to find out, like, there's probably going to be civil cases back at Antonio Brown or whoever is the ownership at the time. You know what I mean? So there's that going on. So those guys depart and leave. And then the latest news that we've heard is the Orlando Predators. Mike Cuarta, that you've just spoken highly of, he ends up going down to Orlando Predators. He's a member of the front office now. Yeah. And also, he brings over 2-time MVP Darius Prince just signed a deal as of I think today or yesterday it happened. So 2 big additions for the Orlando Predators going forward, and just really boost their team already.
Yeah, I mean, the Predators, they were already a strong competition for guys too, but, a former Arena League team too, trying to get back to what they were, again, at their status. But now it looks at, too, your Carolina Cobras, they were a tough team the last couple of seasons to compete there with the Empire. Now they're kind of the team to beat out there. And like you said, with these guys, leaving and stuff like that, they had to kind of figure things out. So they ended up putting an open tryout around in our area here, and they were just like, hey, we need to find somebody. We need bodies. So they just signed 10 new players. So then they had to go and play a game now, fresh with 10 new players. And you talked about guys leaving. They got suspended. And one of those guys, the head coach, Damon Ware, suspended, all this stuff. They got locked out of a hotel room because of an incident, too, on the bus. That they had. There was a big fight amongst the players now. So this is what ownership is doing. They're fighting each other and arguing about this and that and maybe taking sides on some, because even Cisse, when he wrote his resignation letter, it seemed like they were trying to pin sides against each other. He's like, no matter what I think of ownership or this and that, whatever, it's not about that. You're still my guys and blah, blah, blah. But it led to their kicker even filing police charges against the other players on that bus or whatever. So the police were called even on this whole thing. So it got huge. Damon Ware actually goes to go coach for the Orlando Predators too. So not only he's not with the Albany Empire, he's there with Darius Prince and Mike Cuarta. So they were left without a coach. All right, AB, what do you got to do? He calls back Tom Manas, who had fired 10 days prior to the season starting. And it's hilarious. But we got Paul Matty in here. He goes, Orlando Predators were the most profitable team and one of the few that make money. Other teams model them. Yes, that's what I mean. They had glory days back in the Arena League. I remember watching them. Jacksonville Sharks in this league. There you go. But so you've got that going on here with them there, but there's even more to this story again, because is when Roger Weiland, he's a local veteran here around here too in WNYT. He's interviewing Antonio Brown about this whole thing. And he's like, oh, one of the best things there amongst all this chaos that's going on is you hire Tom and Oz. Like, it was a major thing. Like, hey, we need to turn this team around. Let's go get this championship pedigree coach to add to this team, and it's gonna be great.
That we should have never let go.
Dude, you already had him in the locker room already, and you thought it was a good idea to let him go. You're lucky he accepted to come back.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
What if he didn't? You know. So you get him right before that next game with 10 fresh players, mind you, too. So he's got to try and get them caught up to speed with things. And it's a league to where you play Iron Man. So it's not even, here, you're just straight wide receiver, you're straight this. They got to play the other side of the ball, too. So you got to find these versatile type of players. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And then on top of things, when he's being interviewed, they bring up the fact that the chaos is going around. You're making national headlines. AB goes out and says, "Yeah, it's pretty amazing, ain't it? I mean, we're out there, and they're talking about us.
Suite, everyone feels welcome. Tomorrow, the welcomes keep on.
They're talking
coming.
about
whatever tomorrow.
There we go. We're talking about the Albany Empire and not the NBA Finals. So he thinks it's a great thing that people are talking about the Empire right now and not the NBA Finals. But it's for all the wrong things.
Yeah, all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and, and he has this message that he wants to connect the community and everybody, and this and the other thing. It sounds good, but we just don't see it in everything that he does and says.
Yeah, we don't see the evidence of it that what you're talking about. Like, you want to bring everything close and, I mean, like a family and treat it like a big community and help it grow and all that, and keep everybody interested in the Empire, because I'll tell you, like, as a fan of the Empire, all those key players that have left, even the shutdown corner Hollis, like, he's gone. He left. All these guys that were big impact type players for this team, and all of them helping them win those 3 championships altogether, like, they all decided to leave. So, what kind of firepower do you have as the Albany Empire right now? You know what I mean? Like, we're looking at the roster, and there's not a whole lot of familiar names anymore. There's literally none. Like, there's one guy that I happen to know personally, Charles Tarver. Yes. We call him CJ on the flag football field.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a guy that's very dynamic, quick. He's fast. He does a lot of things great. Plays at a high level. So, I mean, maybe he can help add a spark to this team, because it is in desperate need of it going forward.
Well, at least, yeah, seeing him out in front, personally, you know what I mean? Yeah. He's not probably on the level of your Darius Prince, but he's kind of got a lot of the same type of attributes, I would say, that explosibility to do something.
Yeah, he's just an overall different player. Like, he doesn't have the size like Prince had.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what he can do is he can bring that dynamic player as a receiver or even as a corner, because I think they got him on the roster as both, because obviously you got to play both sides. But last week, I think he debuted, and he only played like probably a couple plays all game.
Yeah,
he had one return, and then did a pretty good job at return, almost returned it the whole way. So the spark is there. Now let's see if they can get him up to speed, like with the whole playbook and everything. Maybe get him on the football field a little bit more this week and see what they can do going forward. But again, like, we look back at this roster, we don't even recognize the quarterback that's on the roster. Jonathan Bain.
I mean, Castronova's gone.
Yeah, so. He's gone, and he's also a former MVP of the league. You know what I mean? And like, all these key players all leaving, and now you're trying to infuse this roster with something to go to the games for. So with all these new names on this roster, I mean, over half of this roster has been changed over. Yeah. And there's other guys that have been like career backups, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
they're going to be calling Tommy Grady to come out of retirement.
They probably should.
Yep.
At this point.
We got Chris Simpson in the house with us tonight, too, as well.
What's going on, Chris?
He says, let's go Knicks. Yeah, I don't care about basketball. Paul Matty, I beat Jared Lorenzen, the hefty lefty, when he played arena. Really, for the River Monsters. he has a Super Bowl ring. Yeah, technically. Yeah, that's funny.
Right.
Jared Lorenz. I remember him. Yeah,
The old QB sneak guy.
The refrigerator that could throw the ball.
Yeah, right. Didn't he make it bigger in the Canadian League too? Wasn't he doing well in the Canadian
Something
League
like
or
that.
something
Yeah,
like that?
he definitely did.
Yeah. But another aspect to this whole story, again, when we talk about that first thing that happened with, I'm the full owner, I'm all this and blah, blah, blah. Since then, it's been maybe he's not and stuff. So now he's backtracked on the whole ownership. So much even so with this whole thing about his 47.5%, you get that? There's still a 5% here. And it's supposed to be owned by Steve and Charlotte von Schiller. They're out of Saratoga. And apparently their relationship with them is horrendous. They've tried to contact them about things with building the team, ideas about marketing, because that's what their section was supposed to be of this whole team. And Antonio Brown's camp, including their team president again, what's his name? Albany Denis. I mean, that might be in a fake name. That might be Antonio Brown too. I'm not sure because it sounds almost like Albany. And then something else, something different. But saying that they don't have any documents verifying that these guys have 5% share. So they're saying that their camp owns 100% of it. There's no 5% that goes to the Von Schillers. They said through text, these people have been absolutely mean, calling them names, not allowing them even as owners to get the full season passes, at full access pass. So they haven't even watched a game, haven't been able to go to a game.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy here. And again, they're supposed to be the owners on this whole thing. But since all that, though, too, he's backtracked and said that, listen, I'm not the owner now. The true owner of the Albany Empire is a trust, which is called Antonio L. Allah Express Trust.
Sounds like Antonio Brown.
Sounds like Antonio Brown again, and another alias. And again now, which it is, because now he's said now he's talking in the third person again.
Yes.
Hasn't he done this before?
Does it all the time.
Because he's saying, well, he claims he's a foreign national. That means
Okay.
you're still of the
Right.
nationality, but on a foreign place off of the continental United States. So you're kind of foreign, but you're not, so you're still part of this country.
Sounds like AB.
Which everybody that knows or whatever, he was born and raised in Miami. His father played out here in Albany stuff, but Miami, that's it. So what are you doing again? You're claiming this false identity again and building this trust. So you're not getting fingers pointed back at you as the owner. And for me, that only kind of points one thing to me, as that there could be an angle, because he's got to work an angle. I can't see it any other way. So he wanted to work his angle. I'm 100% owner. That means I could do whatever the F I want. This is my field. This is my this. This is my this. Well, he's also in a court case right now. He also likes to go out and party. Joe had brought it up to me off camera here that, again, he's been seen out here at Albany party and stuff like that. I'm thinking makes this trust. I am technically not the owner because, again, if something goes bad with this whole thing, they could take any assets that he wants in any kind of suit.
Yeah.
So if he claims that I don't own this, he owns it under an LLC or another trust, they can't touch it. It's a business, run by him and things like that. So that's his angle, I think, on this whole thing. He's actually smartening up. He's like, oh, wait. I got to backtrack on this whole thing.
He's rethinking what he could get away with. And it's funny because we bring up all this ownership talk and everything, and you look on the website, and who is listed as the owner? It is none other than Antonio Brown with a big picture of him. And then after that, you have the minority owners, but there's really only one minority owner listed, Steve and Charlotte von Schiller. So like you
That's
could
them,
see,
but they're
you
saying
see
that-
like the debate is like, no, you own it, no, we own it, no, you own it. But it's just like this big fight of like who actually owns it and who doesn't own it. And then after that, it's a very small staff. It's none other than Antonio Brown's father is the leadership team. He's one guy,
just the
but
whole
he's
leadership
the
team.
whole leadership team. Touchdown Eddie Brown, and then after that you have game operations and media. Benjamin Nelson. He's also the game day photographer. So it's like that is the.
He's
staff.
also the mascot too. He
But-
runs around.
but
He's
the
a
crazy
t-shirt guy.
Yeah, he shoots the
He shoots the
shirt
cannons.
cannons.
Yeah.
To the crowd. But Look, that's it. That's the staff. That's the staff of the Albany Empire currently as it is on the website.
Yep.
Before Antonio Brown, it was much bigger. Let's just say that.
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of changes have been
made. Doesn't
made.
state claim. It shows it right on your website, and it verifies at least from there that the Von Schillers, at one point, are have stake in the company.
They have stake in the company, yeah.
And you're pushing them out.
And they haven't been fired.
No, they haven't been technically fired. They're just trying to. He's trying to act like they don't exist. So it's been crazy. It's been a weird debacle amongst this whole thing.
So he did the same thing to Jeff Levac, and he did the same thing to Quarta. Like they just weren't important. Mike Woods, I'm telling you right now, Mike Woods is one of the best to ever done it in the front office. Levac was part of that, but oh my God, the front office before was running so smoothly. Like now you're seeing we keep bringing it up as like this chaos, but that's actually what it feels like and looks like.
It all happened within a month.
It's
seriously
short amount of time and done and over with. It seems like overnight. It was that quick. Like players starting to quit because you're not paying them. Coaches are leaving because you're not paying them. Like all this is coming to blow up in Antonio Brown's face.
Yep.
And you got to wonder, like, is he ever going to get smart enough to be like, hey, listen, maybe you should just sell the team at some point. Maybe. Because cash in now. And maybe, someone will come in and buy it and everything and start over. You know what I mean? Maybe bringing some of those pieces back and trying to restore what the Empire once stood for. So it looks like right now that nothing's getting any better. And we see them kind of putting duct tape and bandages over the roster and trying to figure out what to do next. But the future does not look bright.
It wasn't a good start for everything here. What they were hoping to accomplish, and with, again, ownership all gone, that's all there, it could only be the way that it is now in true Antonio Brown fashion. So what do you guys think about there in the comments? Let us know, too. You guys already chimed in a few. Paul Matty's got experience in the Arena League, coaching and things like that. He's seen a bunch of different things, and he talks about, again, checks bouncing. They've had issues before with even the prior management, and sometimes like Tommy Grady with his contract and things like that too. But it is what it is. It's a business. It's kind of messed up, but hey, it's the way it goes. And who knows? Maybe that makes that game between the Orlando Predators and the Albany Empire a little more spicy.
Yeah, really interesting.
It's got the spadaz.
It definitely does.
Cody, you're a little quiet over there, man. You're just chilling in it. You got two beers open at the same time. You ready to be double fisting on this thing? I mean, you're sitting there.
I'm going.
Do it up, man. So, I mean, what do you think about this debacle? Is it just classic Antonio Brown? I mean,
ever since he left the Steelers, it's just been a constant circus around him. Got to the Raiders, had immediate issues in practice with the coaching staff, and immediately was let go, started a rap career.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The Buccaneers, walked off the field after stripping down all of his clothes.
Let's just say, like, it wasn't that he had issues with the coaching staff. It's he literally threatened the GM of the team. Like, threatened to like beat him up and just was like outraged and threw his cleat at him and everything else. Like, that'll get you kicked off of any team. So that's going way overboard.
Yeah, dude's just crazy.
Boom.
It's just that simple.
Paul Matty's dropping some more knowledge on us. He says Jay Gruden came from the Predators.
Oh.
Check that out.
Where's Jay now?
In the know fact of the day.
I do not know the answer to
He
that question.
could be in prison.
In prison.
He's a predator. I don't know. But
all right, we're getting into some strange times.
Anyway, so there you go. There's some Albany Empire news. It's just crazy, and there's a whole lot of season left over. So I'm sure it could get crazier around here.
Just the beginning.
Absolutely, but it is officially the NFL season going on. It's the off season before we get into everything in camps and stuff. And the big topic around now with teams is the fact that some of these guys now from the 2020 draft, like we just covered that. And see, this is what we say, and we talk about that third year in. One, because it usually takes that long to kind of progress and kind of gauge what this guy is. And they don't pick up that option. They have the option to do that fifth-year option now, so teams can choose. So it makes it right on the right timing for everything, as we just discussed this. And some of these guys we had even bought in on, whether we said we like it or we don't like it. some of these guys are on that button here and on that gavel here for they're not getting picked up on this option. Yep. And some of it could be, Scotty, you got to show me because you haven't showed me yet. But I think some of it is they're trying to figure out the next level of a contract before they get that extension.
Yeah, here, I'll bring up some of the names on this list, and we'll start off right at the top. We had the second pick of that draft. We had none other than Chase Young, drafted to the Washington Commanders. This was a guy who they brought in thinking he was like the next big thing, like Von Miller level of contribution to the team. And he just hadn't stayed on the field. Like, he's been a very good player when he's out there, but I don't even think he's been out there for 16 total games yet in like 3 years. Mm-hmm. So I understand why they would decline it and be like, hey, prove it to us. And I think they even drafted some guys to potentially take that spot. So I'll be curious if, they're going to give him this season, hey, go out and prove yourself, or if they're going to be like, we kind of like these other guys, so I think it's about time for us to move on from you, buddy.
Yeah, for Chase Young, it's real simple. Like, he wasn't on the field, and that's really the reason why they're not comfortable with giving him a fifth-year option. So until he's able to get on the field and stay on the field for a whole season, it would make me concerned going forward. Like, you're not going to want to give a guy, double-digit millions of dollars for an extra year when he hasn't even been able to stay out there and produce. And that's really why he was drafted where he was drafted. A very high pick, a guy that a lot of people still view as one of these great pass rushers that he could become. So, I think Chase Young still has a future for him. I mean, he's still very young. But again, I think his time in Washington is over. I really do. I think this, after deciding to move on and not give him his fifth-year option, I think they've even made moves in the draft to kind of fulfill that role a year before needed. So, and you see that with a lot of teams lately, that's the trend now, is they try to get ahead of the game. Instead of losing a pass rusher, they'll get one a year before. If it, all intertwines there and works out for them. And then they're like, okay, well, now we're not worried. We're not worried about the future because we have the future. So Chase Young, I feel like, is in that boat, and he's either going to most likely either be traded or they might just kind of let it ride out, and then at the end of the year, a free agent.
Yeah, I think it's one of the two, absolutely, as well. Again, and you got to see a flash of him in the beginning, again, but then since that injury, just hasn't been the same type of dude. And it's got to be a show-me thing. If not for this team, it's got to be for another team, like you guys said right there, to see what he's got in the tank.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Think we're good on him.
It's amazing, too, just real quick, just on how fast a narrative can happen about these guys, just with an injury. I mean, again, he was right that first season into a playoff game against Tom Brady, and Washington really put it to the Bucs right there. Really had an opportunity to win that game. And since then, they haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, the kind of Heineke Magic game where we all remember him diving for the end zone. It seems like the Commanders have kind of lacked that, like, I guess that like almost like magic since that point. Because that game, you had defense, offense, guys that were just giving 150%. They shouldn't have been there. They borderline shouldn't have even been in the playoffs that year, but they competed, and they were one possession away. It was only like 13-10.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. All right, on to
who else we got here,
on to
Cody?
our next one. We have, with the 8th pick, Isaiah Simmons to the Arizona Cardinals, who's just been kind of floating around between multiple positions over the last couple seasons. They put him in a slot corner, linebacker, safety. This dude plays a bit of everywhere, and I think they're just a little disappointed in his coverage abilities at this point. He's played some slot corner, and I think he gave up like 107 passer rating when targeted last season. So he has the tackles, the stuff you want to see. Like, he's playing. They just maybe don't think it's at a high enough level right now to like lock him in for the future.
Cardinals are a weird team. Defensively, I feel like they misused Isaiah Simmons coming out of college. I really did like his projection as a safety only, not so much as a linebacker, but you can see with his size the reason why they wanted to kind of, change him out, movement safety, movement corner, movement linebacker, and see what they could utilize with his capabilities. But honestly, because of all that moving around, as a young player, you're not going to get used to your have a position even.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be very unsure. Like, okay, what am I doing this week? I'm playing outside linebacker. Okay, cool. I'm starting to get into it. Oh, what are we doing this week? Oh, well, we're going to change some things up. We're going to have you in the box, but we're going to have you play safety. And then the next week it could be something else. Like you're playing in the slots, so because of all that change, he could never really get comfortable with any one position. So for the Cardinals, the way they handled him, I think that just kind of hindered his development. So, yeah, they might not have liked what they saw or they thought that he would be much better at this point in his career than he is for them. But honestly, you never gave the dude a chance. Like you keep changing him and using him in different facets of the game to the point where he could never really get comfortable at any one given position. So for Isaiah Simmons, I still think he has a lot of talent to offer any team. Yeah. And that's if the Cardinals view him as maybe a trade candidate for a draft pick in the future, or maybe they just, because this team is very interesting on how they play defense. Now with this new regime, let's see what they come up with. Maybe they can find the answer to the question that the Cardinals have always been looking for with Simmons. So for him, I still think he has plenty of talent. I just wish that he would find a home and stick with it. And then we can kind of reevaluate just his trajectory and how good he could become.
Yeah, and that's what I think what they're really ultimately going to do. Like you said, you got a new general manager, you have a new coach and everything in there. They got the tape. They've seen kind of what he does. So now for them, they're going to kind of see what's the way where you fall into place. Are you going to be a true guy on this position? What you're going to do? They want to lay it all out. Like I said, and maybe these guys have a new plan for him. That's what I mean. So I think it's a little bit more of what you're talking about, where the fact he's got the tools, he's around in different areas. I think this new coaching staff is going to kind of figure out, or at least see where he places right, and then you'll get to see what position he might be and what they value at him, and so then they could give him that extension possibly, or decide to move on.
Yeah,
it's just that they didn't draft him, so they're trying to figure it out of what they had.
Listen, we hear this all the time. He's not their guy. Yeah. They didn't handpick him in a draft, so now they got to try to figure out if he can work in their system.
Yes.
And you look at his size and everything, he could quite honestly just become another pass rusher for them.
Yep.
Have him stand up off the edge and just go get after the quarterback, and that's all you're going to have to ask him to do. So we know that that was something that he did at Clemson in college, and he excelled at it too. So maybe that's something that they will bring him into, because former Eagles staff now they're going to implement similarities, or at least identical, maybe even the same defense. So what do we notice with the Philly Eagles? They like to send pressure. They like to get these guys that have measurables and that can pass rush. So that's another thing to look for. And then if it doesn't work out for them, hey, that's okay. They tried for 1 year, and they'll just kind of move on from them.
Absolutely. Let us know what you guys think about any of these players. If there's somebody specific you want to bring up too, about their option, and
don't hesitate
giving up a contract to them, and what would you pay as a GM?
All right. Well, next up on our list, we have Mekhi Becton, tackle for the New York Jets, who has just been plagued with injuries kind of from start to finish so far. I believe he's had one full season, and don't get me wrong, it was a very good season, but for these guys to get their options picked up, you have to play. You have to be on the field. So there's only so much the teams can do. Right now, they're already saying, I think in interviews, hey, his spot isn't even a lock. Go out, earn your spot, and stay on the field. And then we can talk next season. So, with everything going on with the Jets and their newly getting Aaron Rodgers, I'll be very curious to see what we see from Becton this season, if we see Becton this season.
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem with Becton. It's not his capabilities, not his play. He's actually a really good tackle. Problem is he hasn't been on the football field hardly at all. And, when he was on the football field, he graded very highly as a pass blocker, as a tremendous run blocker. I mean, the guy is a mountain of a man, and he's just moving people with ease. So, but that's been the only thing you could knock on him is injuries. That's really it. And the Jets have been so patient as an organization. They're like, okay, well, he's done for this year. Okay, well, he's done for this year. Okay, well, he got hurt again this year. it's a broken record repeating itself, and I think the Jets have had enough. And listen, when you're in negotiations, or at least thinking about offering the 5th-year option to any player, usually it's not a small amount. So like Mekhi Becton is $13.5 million. Are you willing to be comfortable with saying, hey, this guy's been injured a lot, but here's $13.5 million to stay with us an extra year? It just doesn't sit well with organizations. And until they see him stay healthy and produce for them, like they know he can. It's not like it's still a guessing game. Is he good enough or not good enough? No, they know he's good enough. They know he's a good player. It's just, can you please, for the love of God, just stay healthy and help our team out?
Yeah, and again, he put out that tweet, says, I am a tackle, blah, blah, and that started even at all, because he even saw who, they're picking up, in the draft and how they're organizing things and the way they've been out there in the media saying, again, everybody's competing about that, and he's just like, ooh, I got to compete against. Like, well, listen, son, again, you have something to prove. It's much like that Chase Young type of deal. Mm-hmm. Again, you've been plagued with injuries. Yeah, we drafted you high.
Right, real high.
You're not seeing, we're not seeing that value yet. You show us what you can do. You're coming back from this injury. We've seen that you've actually been working hard and you're, trying to get in great shape, get ready, prepared. Put it out there. Show us. Yeah. You know what I mean? Put it out there. Nothing is given. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's what he has done this offseason. Like he's lost some weight. He looks great, actually.
Yeah.
Like he's been putting in a lot of hard work. And I think by losing some of the weight, maybe that's a contributor of him getting injured more often, because he was so big and so heavy that's a lot on your joints. It's a lot on your ligaments and everything. And that probably could have led to him being injured more often. So maybe by losing some weight that he has been in the gym and hitting it and grinding, that maybe that'll help him going forward. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am. Yeah, on to our next one. We have at the 18th pick is Austin Jackson to the Dolphins, a guy who in his first 2 seasons floated around a bit between tackle and guard, but he was still playing, and he was playing at a fairly high level in those. But I think, similar to teams being concerned with injuries, last season he only played in 2 games because he was plagued with very bad ankle injuries from start to finish. And because of that, that's why the Dolphins are like, that was pretty serious last year. We don't want to pay you if you're not going to be that guy from a season or 2 ago. It's cool having that flexible player who can bounce between tackle and guard. But if you're not healthy or you're not the same, they can't pay you. It's tough when, 2 of your 3 seasons have been successful. I think we even were like, it's close, but we thought that was a good pick. So it's tough.
It was a good pick, and this is kind of like one of those things where it's like a money thing. That's really what it is. It's not. I don't think the Dolphins are ready to give up on Austin Jackson in this situation. Yes, he got hurt last year. Yeah, he's probably still recovering from it. He's probably still working the kinks out. But I feel like he'll make a full recovery. He'll come back. It's more like a prove it thing. It's just a year that he's going to have to play through, stay on the football field. Don't get re-injured, because if you get re-injured, then maybe the Dolphins move on from you. But they just want to see him come back from the injury, and can he just be out there, do his job, and then at the end of the year, I think they'll revisit and they'll kind of renegotiate a new deal for him. But it's not like when he entered the league, he just never played like Mekhi Becton. You know what I mean? Like he's shown that he could be there and be the cog on this offensive line that they need. So I feel like it's just going to be like a year rental type of thing, and we'll reinvent. We'll come back to the negotiation table if you can stay on the football field.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. The same thing. Again, it's more of a show me deal quick. Just want to see it consistent. Then we'll value what you are here. I mean, they've even, if you look at the linemen that they have here, they have a few different injury plagued linemen as it is. And they didn't draft anybody that's really pressuring him to take that spot. So basically it's all in his hands. Just show us again, and then we'll value what you are.
Real quick, this is also a tactic that teams use is by not doing the 5th-year option. Now, and you're seeing it more and more often than ever before that teams are doing this. And it's to all these good players, or maybe there are injury-riddled type players, but maybe it's also a negotiating tactic that they're like, okay, well, You were hurt last year. We're not going to give you the millions of dollars for another year. Come back, play. If you can stay healthy, we're going to offer you something comparable to it. We're not going to offer you a big, huge raise. You know what I mean? But now we're going to be like, oh, well, you were injured 2 years ago. So we're a little concerned about that still. So this is what we're comfortable to offer, you know, and it's not going to be, you know, top. It's not going to be the top, you know, in the position, like type of contract or anything like that. Yeah. But it's a negotiation tactic. So sometimes that's what they're thinking long-term as well.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they don't like the player just by declining it. It's like
trying to save some money. Trying to save some money.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes a lot of sense in the long term. Anyways, on to our 23rd pick of the draft. We had Kenneth Murray going to the Chargers. And this is a guy who's played at a fairly high level his couple seasons with the Chargers. And this is almost kind of showing me, you know, a bit of a decline in the value of linebackers. We saw in this year's draft guys who were like, oh, we love this linebacker. Not counting, you know, Jack Campbell, who went in the first. Linebackers were going deep. Like, there are starting linebackers being that were drafted all over day 3. So maybe that's where the Chargers are just like, yeah, I mean, we got you. You've been cool, but, you know, we don't really want to pay you the first round of money that comes with it when we could just get another guy who can perform like Kenneth Murray for much cheaper.
Right. Yeah, you look at what they've done, the Chargers, you know, they drafted Diane Henley, who is basically his replacement. You know, a guy that has speed, a guy that can change direction and tackle well and read and react well and even cover. And that's kind of what Kenneth Murray, you know, was when they were looking at him in the draft. So they basically drafted his replacement. They're looking to save money in that position. And now it's like, okay, well, we're not going to give you your 5th-year option. Most likely when it comes down to it, you're going to be a free agent next year. We're going to let you go. You know, so I still think he's a really good player.
Yep.
But again, this is a very savvy move by a smart organization that they just planned a year ahead. Yeah. Like, let's draft. Holy crap. Is this linebacker really available? Well, he's a starter in our eyes, so we're going to take him now. And now we don't have to worry about Kenneth Murray going forward.
Right.
We've already corrected it. So, Kenneth Murray could be another stellar free agent for someone next year.
And you think about the 5th-year option, too, because even that and with the contracts that were locked in, teams were kind of handcuffed to some of these first-round picks all the time. You know, so if he was a bust, you guys were kind of screwed. You're stuck paying whatever you had to pay from.
Way back when.
Way back. So they've made modifications to this whole thing, and this is part of the great thing for them with the 5th-year option is they could just like, you know, I'm going to make it a business decision about this. And they've turned it into something that's definitely beneficial for them, again, because it's like a 4-year rental or whatever. You're doing your deal. And then by that time, you got your replacement in there and you keep paying them on his first-year contract. It's a brilliant move.
It's smart. It doesn't always work out.
No, it doesn't, but it gives them that option, though.
When it kind of falls into your lap like it did with the Chargers, I mean, it's like it's hard to pass up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there were good linebackers all over this year's draft. So, I mean, for them, it was just like, all right, this is the guy we like. He's going to make millions less than Kenneth Murray if we took his 5th-year option. Easy, no-brainer. You know, doesn't harm them long-term, doesn't harm them short-term.
Right.
All right. And anyways, on to our 24th pick. We had Cesar Ruiz going to the Saints. And I was a little confused why they didn't take his 5th-year option. It's not so easy to go out and find effective linemen who don't miss games, who are healthy each season. And Ruiz hasn't really struggled with injuries. He's been there all 3 seasons. He's been a very consistent starter for them. So I don't really know their angle. I don't know what his backup situation looks like, but if I'm them, I'm locking in my starting lineman who's been performing at a good level. Just give him, you know, the extra couple million, then you don't have to go hunting for, especially a new center. You know, center is a little bit, you know, maybe people don't talk about it enough. You know, that's the guy handing the ball off directly to your quarterback.
That's your quarterback of the offensive line. That's the guy that makes the checks and balances across the line. He's the one that calls different protections, snap in and snap out. Like, he's very important. People don't realize how important centers are. And very good ones, you definitely want to hold on to as long as you can. Cesar Ruiz, he's more than capable of playing center, playing guard. He's very versatile that way. But I feel like when it comes to that position, it's also kind of diminished in value as well. You know, nobody wants to pay a center/guard $14 million. That is a big chunk of change that you could be putting towards a tackle or someone of that caliber. So that's kind of I feel like that's what the Saints are thinking, because they still do need to kind of think of the future. Like currently they are sitting at $16 million. Yeah. Now, if they exercise that fifth-year option, they only got $2 million under the cap. And going into the following year, they are in the negative. So there you have it. Right there, it tells you they right now are projected to be $52 million over the cap next season. Yikes. Now, they will figure out how to get out from underneath that just like anybody else will. But that is a lot of money to be over the cap. And right now, I think that's just what they're planning for. They're saying, hey, if we commit to $14 million now, we only got $2 million this year. And what does that mean going forward? Like, what are we going to have to do? Right now, we need to worry about saving money as much as possible. So they're going to probably revisit this next year when they can create enough cap space to where that maybe they'll be able to re-sign Caesar. Yep. And that's kind of going to be the main goal for them going
Precisely,
forward.
And that's what I was just thinking about too. Exactly. They're going to revisit it, when they can take a look at it, expenses. They're going to have some other people rework some contracts here, see what they're going to do. Cam Jordan, what's going to go on with him too, you know what I mean? And make it work. Again, a lot of teams do this as well, but it feel out, and it's not like they don't want the guy, like, we're not worth that next. They want to look at their finances, just say, hey, we're going to your camp, we're working things out. We'll talk to negotiations and contracts throughout even this season, try to figure it out, and then have a plan going forward possibly.
Yeah, because with those contracts now let's go a year forward, and they're like, all right, well, we created some cap space. We still don't have a lot of money, but Caesar, this is what we're willing to do. We're going to give you a huge signing bonus. You know what I mean? And then the rest of it is going to be like very small amount of base salary, and that kind of helps us out. What do you think? Sure, give me money right up front. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense for the player, makes sense for the team. I don't know, like, the nuances of how, like, the contract works, how the signing bonus does or doesn't affect things.
It does.
But it's always cool. Well, I know it does. It's cool.
You
it's
said
cool
you don't
to, like,
know.
see it. I don't. Yeah, well, I don't know a lot about how it, like,
exactly
factors
how
into
it
the
does.
cap.
Yeah, how it factors into it. I
haven't done my due diligence in that department.
A lot of mathematics.
Yeah, on to our next one. It's kind of one of the weirder ones we'll talk about, because this is like, it's a like declined but with like quotation marks around it, because it's Jordan Love's, to where they declined his fifth-year option and instead signed him to a one-year extension with incentives. So he's getting less guaranteed money, but he has the potential to make more. I think I really like this for a player who's very much at his prove-it stage now of his career. He's finally getting his chance. They're like, hey, we'll give you a solid amount of money, and if you perform like, we want you to, and you become our guy, then you're going to make a lot of money this year. You're going to make a lot more than you would have made if we just took your fifth year.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, let me just jump in quick on this quick. Is that right?
Well, go ahead. I stopped talking.
That's all right. I want to get to it before I lose my train of thought. You know how I am. I see something shiny and I walk away. But this is like the perfect thing for them, because again, this is still the same regime that went and jumped ahead to get this guy. They went through the whole Aaron Rodgers thing again. They're past that. Now they're them saying, we have confidence in you. This is why we went to go and get you, but we want you to prove it. Like, say, we like you, but we want you to show us what you can do, and the sky's the limit for you then. Then we will pay you this, whatever, if you can pull off these things. That way they can see, because we haven't got to see a whole lot out of him.
Very limited.
Very limited. So this is a perfect thing for both of them. Makes him happy, makes them happy at this point, and then we all will truly see this season of what we really have in this guy.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, too, is, it's a trial by error type of deal, because one, you mentioned about guarantees. You don't know how that works into it. Well, that's kind of what runs into this right here, is there's a reason why they got ahead of it. They don't want guarantees because that goes against your cap. And it's guaranteed. Even if you cut him, you still got to pay him. And it's still against your cap. So that's a very bad thing, is to have guaranteed money, especially a lot of it. So for Jordan Love and the Packers, they decided, hey, let's get ahead of this thing right now. We're not going to pay him a lot, pay him a little bit of guaranteed money, and then we'll give him, a bigger salary. But that's okay, because after a year, we might have our answer of, is he really the guy that we want to believe in going forward? Now, there's going to be some bumps in the road, because maybe the first few games that he plays, defensive coordinators are not going to be used to him, because he's different. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be a different type of quarterback. So the teams are going to try to study his nuances and maybe some tells, with his delivery or even with his vision, what way his helmet goes and whatnot. Yeah. So they're going to be studying him as well. And while they're doing that, he might get a little bit of a leg up on some teams early on. And then as the season progresses, then you might see teams like, okay, well, we figured this out. We figured that out about him. Yeah. Now we're going to attack him here, there, everywhere. And now it's a different story at the end of the year. So if he can overcome that going all the way through the season, he's definitely going to prove the Packers that, listen, he is a starting caliber quarterback. He is our quarterback going forward. Now the biggest trick is to figure out a long-term solution with them, because we've already seen quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson just got a huge deal. Jalen Hurts got a huge deal. Now, different caliber guys because we've seen them play. Yeah. But now maybe the Packers might be able to negotiate something like, yeah, we're going to give you a big raise, but it's not going to be anywhere close to those guys, but it could be incentive-laden. Mm-hmm. So something to watch out for Jordan Love and the Packers. I know the Packers, they would love more than anything for him to be the long-term starter for sure.
Have yet another franchise
that way
QB.
That way they don't have to worry about it.
It would make their life easy. I could see in contract-wise maybe them doing something similar to what we saw with Daniel Jones this last season, a QB who was coming off, a couple mediocre seasons and then had his big blow-up year last year where he showed hey, I can maybe be the guy going forward. And they gave him a good chunk of money, not record-breaking, but a very good chunk of money, and that's maybe where someone like Jordan Love could fall into if, say, the Packers have a at least promising season this year. Because they're so young, I don't think they're going to have a great season, but if he shows promise and by the end of the year this team starts clicking, I could see him getting at least maybe top 10 money. I think Jones is 8 or 9 on the list now. He's been falling down as the new contracts have been coming through. But, yeah.
That would be crazy, though, too. That would definitely be enough controversial. If he's top 10,
I don't think he'll be top 10.
Yeah, that would be insane.
Because after 1 year of exposure,
he's got
all these other guys have had
Jones
years.
had a lot
Jones
more.
had
He has
years.
intangibles that
Yeah.
go.
Just the only situation, I guess, right now that's going on that I could see that was even a similar one, or maybe Geno, I guess, but Geno's a veteran.
All right, there we go. We got Cody's hot take for the season.
We'll get more hot takes as we go. All right, so for the next two, I almost want to group them together because it's the same thing we've been going on with these linebackers and diminishing value, because these are two high-level linebackers. One of them almost maybe a step under elite, if not elite, with Jordan Brooks and Patrick Queen, both getting theirs declined. And Patrick Queen was amazing last season. He had over 100 tackles. He's been great in coverage. He's forcing fumbles. What am I not seeing? Do you just I guess we can get someone else that's going to be cheaper? Is that just the linebacker position now? We draft a guy, have him for a couple seasons, and then let him go when he wants money? Is that the linebacker position as we know it now?
Now, the Ravens are one of these teams that are very sneaky in terms of evaluating talent, especially at linebacker. They seem to find these guys that kind of slip through the cracks, whether it be after the draft or late in the draft, and they kind of groom them to become starters eventually. So the Ravens, I feel like they had a pretty good draft, but there's a couple of players they were able to obtain where you could see maybe in a year, maybe 2 years, that guy could develop into a starting linebacker. So I think the Ravens, again, this is another thing that you're starting to see teams trending towards, is getting a year ahead of something, a position to fill it. And Patrick Queen, we've heard a lot of rumors lately about Queen even being on the trade blocks, and them looking to move on from him because they don't want to have to pay him big time money. And it's not there's no question he's a really good player. It's just teams are now starting to think a little bit differently in terms of giving these big contracts. If they don't have to, they can get ahead of the game, whether it be a free agent or a draft pick or signing after the draft. And now they're prepared to move on from him when needed. So Queen is a question mark right now. We don't know really how the Ravens are thinking about him officially. It hasn't been coming out where we're definitely trading him. You know what I mean? It's been kind of under wraps. It's been very quiet. But there are rumors out there. So do we believe them? Do we just kind of wait and see? So with Queen's situation, it's very unique. Very good player. Is productive. There's no reason not to try to sign him long term. But again, money is a factor. When you're giving a guy almost just under $13 million for 1 year,
Yeah.
you know, you don't want to have to pay that. Now, if you can somehow in the draft find his replacement, you're going to do it. You know, when you look at, let me pull up here.
The Baltimore Ravens, they've been one of those teams. You talk about franchises that has just been smart, though, too.
Mm-hmm.
They've consistently been able to do the smart things, too, not only controlling money
Right.
and in the roster spots, too, and even drafting. And so this is a smart move, I think, by them, and there's got to be a strategy behind it as well.
Yeah, so like right now, this year, like they have $11 million of cap space. If they are to exercise this, they are under the cap. So it's all money related for the most part for a few of these teams. And like going forward, like I'm trying to look into next year. Yeah, the next year they're going to have $21 million under the cap as of right now.
Oh yeah,
and that's before anything happens. So they're preparing. Hey, listen, we're not going to give you the year now.
Yep.
If you're still on the team, if we didn't trade you or anything, we would love to keep you. And then maybe next year they're going to reevaluate and renegotiate a new deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's
a
the
lot of
same
sense.
path of what they're going to do. Yep.
Yep, and we got like kind of one more guy that's at least more of an interesting player who's been hot 1 second, hurt the next, benched the next. He's been all over the place in his 3 seasons. And as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the Chiefs have already shown they really like a guy like Pacheco, and we've seen in years past now that the running back position is kind of starting to go almost down in value. A little less in this draft, as we finally saw 2 guys going high for the first time in a long time. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it's weird. Because this season, I can't say he had a bad year. When he was out there, he was helping them score touchdowns. He became like a red zone guy. And he was making plays when asked, but he just wasn't needed. Pacheco was more explosive. They spilled in McKinnon and guys like that. Like they just don't need this guy anymore. It's cool to have him. He's just not needed. So it makes a lot of sense to decline his option.
Yeah, and this is the thing. This is like one of those situations where it's like next man up mentality. Well, Isaiah Pacheco got his chance and never gave the position back.
Yep.
Because there's no reason to. Like, listen, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's quicker than fast. He doesn't have the top end speed to break away and get those long yardage touchdowns. Pacheco does. Pacheco's very dynamic. He runs harder, I feel like, than Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even though Helaire is much bigger.
Yeah.
But again, he's a different style of running back. I consider him more of a power back, a guy who's very quick but doesn't have top end speed. He can run you over. He can make you miss. He can do a lot of things well. But listen, you put Pacheco in that offense, you saw kind of the different dynamic that they had. It was almost like a similar dynamic that Tyreek Hill had on that offense. A guy that was a very dynamic player, quick, very explosive, very fast, very physical. The guy doesn't look like he's going to run through people, but he does, So they really have fallen in love with Pacheco. And because of that, they're not going to agree to a 5th-year option on a running back when they have his replacement already. They have their future guy. So, of course, they're probably going to move on from Helaire. We even heard rumors this season that they were looking to trade him to another team for a draft pick before the draft even got here. So, they're going to move on from him. And he'll be a free agent, and I think he'll be a great free agent. Whoever does decide to sign him, he still can contribute to just about any offense. It's we're witnessing this year, which is very unique for running backs. It's almost like the draft is showing us like how teams are viewing running backs now again. Like there was 2 taken in the first round, and it's been years since that's ever happened. So it looks like when they find a dynamic running back, they're going back to the idea of, hey, if they're that dynamic, let's take him. He's going to be a difference maker for us in the backfield. Let's take him. Let's not wait till 2nd and 3rd day because another team might. So they're getting ahead of the game. They're doing what they need to do going forward. So the Chiefs, this is just evidence of that. They signed or drafted Pacheco. I think he was an undrafted free agent, wasn't he?
He was undrafted, yeah.
So they signed him. He blew up in camp. We were like, wow, this guy's amazing. Let's see what he can do in a game. And then they saw that and they're like, Helaire, you can hit the showers. We're good. So this is another smart move by the Chiefs, and let's see where he ends up.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what you guys are talking about too. It's they're moving on. They've already kind of seen it. That when you can get value again of what you did with Pacheco, it's well worth it just to move on. And this is what this team does. You talk about another organization that is able to draft well or make the right moves with what they have and stuff. I mean, at one point, even during the Super Bowl, but during the season, throughout the season, the playoffs, they were riddled with injuries at wide receiver and things like that. They were down to the 4th and 5th option at times. And like I said, even during the Super Bowl, if it wasn't even for a guy like Isaiah Pacheco making some moves in that game, they don't come out of there with a win. You know what I mean? So things like that, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, when he was out there, he did some, but again, it wasn't the type of things that blew you off. When you're watching it, and like you said, you guys know, when you watch game film and you're seeing this, you got the eye test. When you saw Pacheco out there, there was just something more that caught your eye a little bit more. You're like, wow, okay. And absolutely. So, I mean, it's them moving on, and any team out there is going to give him a try. I mean, I look at even maybe the Cardinals themselves.
Yeah.
James Conner, they're going to be moving on him from pretty soon too, because again, they were talking about his contract, not, working things out with him moving on. Pull him into that organization, throw him in there at spot chances. He's still young. We'll see what we got.
Yeah, and that's a funny thing too, is you got fans pulling their hair out right now. They're like, how did my team not go after him and sign him? We let the Chiefs get him. We could have used him.
Right.
You know what I mean? You see this all the time. And honestly, it could be a lot of different things. It could be
everything.
Maybe only a couple teams, did their due diligence on him and said, okay, well, we're going to stash this player away. We don't think he's going to be drafted, but we're going to be on the phones right away and try to get him signed. You know what I mean? There's different things like that. And sometimes they get overlooked. I know it's crazy after all the homework that all these teams do and all the digging that they do to find different information about players and some guys that you never heard of. You know what I mean? Schools you never heard of. And they're bringing them in for visits and stuff. But this is what it all amounts to. Is sometimes you strike gold. Just sometimes it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you look at their tangibles where you said teams pass up on a guy because his hands are small or this, he's just shorter or this or that. I mean, things like that they just don't like, and
there's likes and dislikes. Like look at me and Cody's top 10 lists. Like with edge rushers. Like I like length. I like guys that are bigger, stronger, and have length, and guys that you can maybe teach at the next level, especially if they have bend. You know what I mean? And maybe you can develop that other part of pass rushing where Cody was looking at guys that were already ready to go. You know what I mean? So it's the same scenario in war rooms with other teams is they all have their likes, they have their dislikes. And yes, there are a ton of arguments in the war room. A head coach might like a certain player that's available. And then the GM's like, are you crazy? No, we have this guy ranked, right now. Let's take him. No, God damn it. I told you that I wanted this guy for my team. And if he was there, we should take him. You know what I mean? So there's all these different opinions and all of those things that go into the draft, which makes it interesting. And then after the draft, we criticize the hell out of it. And then later on, we're like, oh, yeah, we were wrong about that. Yep. Okay, I get it.
Yes.
It happens. Some players surprise us every year. And a kind of cool thing going back to the Isaiah Pacheco of it is I don't know if you guys saw the reports that he actually played through the Super Bowl with a broken hand and a torn labrum. Wow. Speaking of other guys being injured.
That's a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
That's a lot of drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I can criticize the Chiefs because, none of us like to watch the teams completely dominate year in, year out. We're like, we want to see someone new. We want to see some upsets. We want to see cool things. But, these are just, whether they're on drugs, not on drugs, you're still out there risking, permanent damage to your body to win a Super
Definitely
Bowl.
on drugs.
Guys,
Winners
Mahomes was playing through an injury. Pacheco was playing through an injury. Just a little tougher than, say, a guy like Lamar Jackson, who when he was kind of in that same spot, he was like, nah, I'm just gonna chill. I want to preserve my body and go for some money. And
he got it.
Hats off to
it
him.
Worked.
Right? Hats off to him. He got his money, no matter how many times we said it was a bad idea.
It worked.
Yeah, absolutely. And
good on you, Lamar.
Yeah. Pacheco, he wasn't the only high guy out there too, because again, Patrick Mahomes was on some shit too.
He had a high ankle sprain.
He was dealing with it
throughout the playoffs. Yeah. Yeah,
There's times it looked like he was gonna be, ugh.
There is no way he wasn't medicated.
Oh,
There's no way at all.
Yeah.
Because you noticed the difference when it got hit or he like kind of fell down awkward and a lot of stress went on that high ankle. He was limping and limping back to the sideline to get more drugs. So that way he can get back in and help his team win.
Yeah, at that point, it's almost like the old Blitz the League games where the guy would like break his leg, run to the sideline, like,
give him a
good.
shot.
Give him a shot, and they just toss him back in there.
I'm good to go.
Mahomes almost gave those kind of vibes in the Super Bowl. Where it's every time I got hurt, like, I more drugs, give me a play or something.
Yeah,
Goes off and
absolutely.
comes back.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And again, these fifth-year options, like I said, the teams know how to work it. It puts more, pressure on the players, and again, to perform for some of these guys again, because when they take a look at them, we're talking about first-round picks. That's what it's for. So how do these guys lay out when you're valued for a first-rounder? You got to kind of be that guy right now. You've got to show it to them. You got to make it worth our while. What we drafted you for. And you've seen it now with this particular draft we just watched here at Hooters.
Yeah.
Some of these positions, like you guys were surprised when some of these guys fell, or the value some of these guys were able to get with some of these linebackers.
The funny thing is we expected it. A lot of other other fans, they were like, "How could that happen?" But we were like, "We could see it. We could see it." Because there's different likes and dislikes. We talked about that before. So some teams like this player better, like Emmanuel Forbes. Some people didn't even view him as the first 2 rounds, worth taking him in the first round. Some people thought of him as a 3rd-round pick, but here he went the first round. So
Forbes, Will McDonald.
There's a lot
of those guys in the first round, especially.
And we talked about it before on the show about scheme fit. Some of those guys fit their scheme specifically, so that's why they took them higher instead of trying to wait to see if they could get them later.
Yeah, there were some other guys who, had their 5th-year options decline, but, it's not as many, like, big names. It's guys who have turned into backups. C.J. Henderson, he's been playing, but he's on a new team now, so, he's still got to prove
he
a bit more.
He has never amounted to being the starter that we thought he was going to be at,
the elite
coming out of college.
Right. Those questions have already been answered because those were guys even when we did our list of the 2020 draft.
The guys we put
whether
as like
we put down or not. Jeff
downs.
Okudah, things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the Okudas.
One guy that we have to touch on is Josh Jacobs.
Yeah,
a guy that won the crown this past year in rushing. Yep. And for a guy that has been the rushing MVP, so to speak, to not get his 5th-year option. I'm confused.
Yeah.
Like, what more can the guy do? He can't put you on his back and say, "Hey, I'm going to run through every team until we get to the Super Bowl." Like, the guy has done enough. So you need to pay the guy. So, and for them going forward, like money-wise and everything, they could do it. They could do it. They can afford him. They moved on from a lot of other money in the past year. So what's your excuse now?
Josh McDaniels is looking for Rex Burkhead to be available or something. That's what I'm saying. No, I'm just saying. This is the way he is, I mean, that would be another kicker that you would just have a heart attack, Joe. Like, no, he's going to pass on Josh Jacobs. He's just going to bring in retread New England Patriot. This will work. You know what I mean? Because he knows the system. But I know what you mean, though. Because, again, he's a dynamic player. He's a great player. And what is the end game of this? Because it's hard to gauge this regime here that's in here right now. I can't figure it out.
There is no gauging.
Because, again, like you said, Darren Waller out the door. He's a New York Giant. Yay for us, right, Cody?
Yep.
But what the hell are you doing here? You're supposed to try and keep these guys here together, trying to keep that nucleus and then help your quarterback situation here. You've got Jimmy Garoppolo coming in here. You want to make sure he has the best weapons available, especially having a running game here with Josh Jacobs. Make that available for him.
Right.
Why are you dicking around with whatever you got going on with these contracts?
The thing with Darren Waller, though, and I could understand the reason why they decided to move on from him and trade him, even though he's considered a top 3 tight end, maybe even top 4. You can debate it. But he is 31 years old. He has been injured often. And they don't think that he's going to stay healthy as he gets older. So that was the mindset, the reason why they decided to move on from him, which was a shock to everybody. Like, no one thought that was going to happen. But again, like, you can see the reason why, but with a guy as a high caliber player as he is, and how much he can change a defense's mindset, on the football field, it's kind of hard to just kind of give that up, So for Jacobs, he's on another level. Like he's one of the guys where in McDaniel's offense, you have to have a running game. If you don't have a legit running back like Jacobs, then your whole offense is done. Jimmy G he'll be injured before week 1 happens.
His career has been elevated due to good running games.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Having elite people around him.
And look at where he's gone. The Patriots, offense with McDaniels is a running offense, and then you feed off of that with your short game passing. Same thing with the Niners. They had a stellar running game, and Jimmy G could just thread the needle in short passes. Now he's with the Vegas Raiders. Same scenario. McDaniels is there. You're gonna have to have a great running game and short passes to the guys like Devontae Adams and Renfro and all the other guys that they brought in to work them out. So to not pay your best offensive player right now is kind of absurd.
Yeah, I mean it's just ridiculous at this point. No matter how much we want to devalue the running back, say, oh, well, you could bring in this guy to do this. You don't want to get rid of your elite players. You put like certain guys above everyone else. They're not your average starter. They're not a good starter. That you're not going to find someone who can do this. It's, the reason, like, it would be like the Giants all of a sudden being like, hey, Saquon, there's the door, buddy. Eric Gray's cool. Like, we'd be downgrading hardcore, getting rid of basically the reason we were in the playoffs last year. I don't want to see situations like that coming up, as much as, we don't like McDaniels. I know, he's not your favorite coach in the world.
Not really.
Yeah,
he's not my coach.
He's not. Yeah. You got to think again that the negotiations, even with an extension, somehow has got to be in. Throughout this season.
Listen,
that's got to be the end game.
The crazy thing is, like, they've had talks, and then they broke talks off before the draft, and then things weren't really going anywhere. And then after the draft, they're trying to pick things back up, and it's like, why are you guys messing around? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why is this taking so long? Like, the scale of running backs out there and what they make.
Right.
You got to pay this guy. Comparable to the top 5 running backs. It's that simple.
Yep.
I'm curious what kind of contract he's going for. If he wants like a, record breaking, or if he's just like, just pay me what I'm due. Give
Honestly,
me like top 5 money and we're good.
If you read the tea leaves from Josh Jacobs on Twitter, he basically told he told McDaniels, told Dave Ziegler, the GM, and said, listen, it's got to make sense for me.
Yeah,
it's got to make sense. Like, in order for me to return or want to even return, you got to build the team back up because you got rid of Carr.
Yeah,
you got rid of Darren Waller. Like, what are we doing on offense now?
Yeah, disassembled the team.
So, like, show me going forward. Like, do you have a plan? Like, because for me, I don't think I want to re-sign if we're going, downward. If we're not going to be better, why would I want to come back? So. Make it make sense. Show me the plan, and then maybe I'll agree to signing with you. And then he does want to stay in Vegas.
Yeah.
But that right there shows you everything. So, like, okay, if you want to sign me now, I don't think you added enough talent, so I want you to pay me this much.
Yeah.
If you show me that you're building a team up and you have a plan, okay, I'll come down a little bit for you.
Yeah.
But show me evidence of what we're doing here.
Makes sense.
Absolutely. I think that exactly.
Yeah, I think that that ends up kind of concluding our 5th-year option guys that are at least, worth bringing up. The rest of them, Rieger, Chason, like, they're guys we knew that were.
I'll tell you right
declined.
now, I was really hoping that a defensive lineman was going to be available by the name of Derek Brown. I mean, I was really hoping that they didn't. Yeah, I was really hoping they didn't exercise him, but
that'd be a pretty big whiff.
The only other one, which is interesting to me, is Javon Kinlaw. From the Niners. This is a guy that was very highly touted coming out of college from South Carolina, a guy that was seen as more of a pass rushing D tackle and not very good at stopping the run.
Yeah.
But they declined his 5th-year option. Now going forward, what do the Niners do the best? They find defensive line talent. So I think they're going to do that. I honestly think that Kinlaw, they're more than prepared to move on from him and have him go into free agency, not really worry about it. So they're one of those teams. They just kind of find certain positions that fit well with their defense, and that's what they'll continue to do.
Yeah, he's been kind of like almost pushed into a backup role now over the last season or two. This is a D-line where he was given his chances. You have elite players all over the line.
He started right away.
You're not getting double teamed, and the production just wasn't there. Maybe he'll be a late bloomer. Maybe all of a sudden he'll come out in another defensive coordinator where we can finally see that talent come to the surface. But if he plays out this next season, doesn't get traded, I don't think we'll really be seeing him. God knows we won't be talking about him.
And that's the crazy thing about Kinlaw is he's still young.
Someone you can still work with.
And it's very simple. Like sometimes these players, like for whatever reason, they need a change of environment.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they, blow up on the football field and they're like, this is the guy we've been waiting for. You know what I mean? Like, this is the man. So it's weird sometimes. Maybe it is a defensive scheme type of thing where he just maybe doesn't quite fit with the Niners and what they want to do. But we'll wait and see for sure.
Yeah, we've seen it with players before where the teams that drafted them just never worked out. Even like a Ryan Tannehill, played out his years with the Dolphins. It was like, it's whatever. These guys just okay. Goes to the Titans and immediately is throwing for, 30-plus touchdowns every year, and he's making it work. We see it with some guys. There's not a ton of cases of guys who leave their team and then go on to be like superstars or extremely high-level players. But, it's there. When, what was it? One other thing with Ryan Tannehill. Joe, you probably already know this because you kind of just know everything about all the players. I didn't know that he was a former wide receiver in college.
From Texas A&M.
It blew my mind.
Yeah.
I envisioned Ryan Tannehill, and I'm like, this guy is never been fast.
And that's
how did he? What did he run? Run like a 4.7?
But his athletic ability, you could see it. And the way he runs, he runs like a wide receiver. So you could see that from his past, you know what I mean? And it's crazy how a lot of this happens a lot too, is that players from high school going into college going into pros, some of them change positions and you're like, wait, he was a former receiver. Now he's a tight end. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He was a former quarterback. Now he's a wide receiver. He was a former running back. Now he's a corner. Like this kind of thing happens all the time. And some players evolve and they get better and because maybe the position that they were in didn't quite fit with what their skill set was.
Right.
And now they change and then they flourish. And then sometimes it just doesn't matter. Like they switch positions and they didn't get any better. So those are the ones that go undrafted.
Yeah.
Some guys hit their ceilings early.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, and you've seen it. You've seen quarterbacks change to linemen. Like, Cody.
We've seen, was it Cody Mock in this year's draft? Yeah. So, seeing the before and after picture. What this kid came in as, I think he was like a quarterback in high school, was like walked on as a tight end at 202 pounds, graduates as a Viking at 300 pounds and becomes I think it was a third or fourth round pick.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Or you become a Tebow when you not good at quarterback or any other position.
And
then you try playing baseball.
The craziest thing for Tebow in his situation is that all teams were pleading with them, switch to tight end. Yep. Switch to tight end. He said, no, I'm a quarterback. Yep. No, I'm a quarterback. I'm out of the league. Hey, come play for tight end. Okay, I'll come in and play tight end. But it was already well past.
It's because it's somebody he trusted though too.
It was
admired. So.
But it was already well past his career. So it's like you waited too long, bro.
And he still did.
If he made the early switch at tight end earlier in his career when he was asked to, I think he could have eventually flourished as a tight end. But we'll never know, right?
We will never know.
Yeah, it's when he was still at the height of his kind of athletic ability.
Yep.
Because we saw how he ran with the ball. No one ever questioned his heart or how hard he ran. Mm-hmm. Dude was just very inaccurate, after changing his throw style away from the hard, crazy wheel that he had with the Gators where he did the full wind up. And it just never...
Windmill pitch.
Yeah, never worked out for him outside of the really cool game against the Steelers.
Absolutely. So, fifth-year options, that's a big deal now, and,
we got past it.
We got past it, yeah. Absolutely.
Do we get a fifth-year option?
This would be our fifth year, right? Or are we in 6 years?
No,
we got our fifth-year option.
This is my first full year.
Yeah, it's his first year
I'm
on.
not asking about
we're on
you,
a
Cody.
Retool,
You're
not
new.
even a rebuild right now.
You're like the rookie.
So
dive
I think
down.
we're doing good. There's a lot of
Here,
other
carry
things
my
to
helmet on the way out.
attack this coming
okay.
season, Joe. I mean, it's a new fresh start. We got Cody
is.
involved here. I'm really excited about what's going on. We're changing the studio, as you could tell, weekly as we go. So we're trying to get better for everybody out there. Next week, I think we're going to talk about even some of the franchise tags that haven't got signed yet. Guys trying to negotiate.
Guys that are due to get it and everything, and
trying to negotiate some contracts.
Who signs,
and
who doesn't.
whatever news might be out there. But we're excited to talk about it with you guys. And Joe, tell them what they can do to find out.
Really, if you've lasted this long, thank God you're here. Thank you so much for watching. If you just popped in, it's great too.
Hashtag know-it-all.
But do us a huge favor. Help us out, please. We are a football community needy type of franchise here. We need more people.
We care about the community, not like Antonio Brown.
That's right. We're yes, we definitely
Real
care
care.
more about. But do us a huge favor. Head over to YouTube. Hit that subscribe button on there. Really helps us grow in that algorithm. Kind of pushes us up the ladder, so to speak. Also, hit the notification bell to let you guys know when we go live. And yes, of course, you can always follow us on Facebook and anywhere you get your podcast. That's right. You can take us along for the ride in your car. You can take us at work and listen to us talk a whole bunch of knowledge that hopefully you retain. So bring us along. Spotify, iTunes, you name it, we're there. Drop a follow. Take us along with you. And if you want to be more interactive with us, come to our live show every Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. We are here. You can drop a comment down below, whether it be Facebook or YouTube, and we'll react to it. We'll answer your questions. Even if you have an opinion, drop it down below, and we'll get to it as soon as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday nights for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.